Now, I've got a question for you. How far would you go to keep a full head of hair, male or female? I mean, probably quite a long way, most people, I think. Now, Spencer Stevenson began losing his hair when he was 21 and has since spent a whopping 40 grand finding a successful solution, experiencing various kind of failed and botched treatments along the way. He's had 13 hair transplants in 20 years, and he's on the show. Hello, good afternoon, even, Spencer. Hiya.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me on.
That's all right. I am absolutely fascinated by you, and 40 grand. That is an extraordinary figure.
It really is, yeah, but that is over the course of 20 years and through various different treatments, various different hair transplants. So it's a combination of combined efforts to get to where I am now. It wasn't just one procedure. So when people do read that, and I've been in the mainstream media a lot recently, it is over a considerable amount of time and various different treatments. So the average person does not need to spend that amount of money to get, a very similar result to mine. We're all different. Everybody's hair loss patterns are different. The trick to it all is preventing further loss, because then you need to invest in fewer hair transplants. So it's everybody's different. My journey is unique to me, without a doubt, but hence why I'm quite a voice in the mainstream media to enable people to not have to go down that road that I went down, and protect people and educate them so that they can get informed and empowered, because I wasn't, and I made so many mistakes along the way. And that's what's vital now, is there's so much information out there for new hair loss sufferers who are desperate, who are vulnerable like I was. And I decided to kind of step forward it's a very sensitive issue, losing your hair. Nobody really wants to talk about it, but I kind of did it so that other people didn't have to go down the journey I did.
Spencer, when you were 21, now, was this hereditary in your family? Were you poorly? At 21, a lot of men don't start losing their hair. So what happened to you?
Yeah, I lost my hair through genetic male pattern baldness, unfortunately. My grandfather on my mother's side followed a very similar path. It is a genetic lottery, male pattern baldness. However, believe it or not, kind of 50% of men and women, but 50% of men have already lost a significant amount of hair by the time that they're 25, 30. So the figures are larger than you realize. It's a silent epidemic. People are suffering in silence, don't talk about it openly. Hence why it is a multi-billion-pound a year industry governing to that market, and it's become a commodity that's being sold to people as very easy, quick fix. And sadly it isn't. You've just got to make sure you do your due diligence, you do your research via the right resources, and it can be a relatively smooth process to restoring or regrowing hair, or essentially preventing further loss, which is key. Surgery is a last resort. It's something we preach heavily on a radio show I'm part of, The Bald Truth, that has a vast number of people that tune in to listen to it, because of the demand of people that want information and accurate information, which isn't in readily supply.
No, and I think you're right. I think the whole thing about feeding into people's insecurities, people don't want to talk about it, and it's affecting men and women's confidence. And so you're almost ripe for the picking, aren't you, from people, who can sell you anything if you want your hair.
Indeed you are, and hair loss, until you've started to lose your hair, it's a very difficult concept to comprehend. It affects your self-esteem, your self-confidence, your own identity. Sounds a bit dramatic, but until you started to lose your hair, it's a very difficult concept to comprehend. There's a lot of throwaway comments, a lot of throwaway jokes, a bit of an elephant in the room with some people. But as I say, I was privy to being prey to the industry, sadly, learned the hard way. And now, as an independent advisor, my website that I've set up, Spex Hair, is there to Just give people a bit of perspective and enable them to not jump in with both feet, get educated, get informed, and make the right decisions for their own situation, because we are all different. No two people are the same, but categorically, hair loss sadly affects us very, very similarly psychologically, men and women.
Yeah. Now, you've been advising some celebrities, haven't you? And I know I saw him on a programme the other day with Peter Crouch. Peter Crouch's show, he had Jimmy Carr on, and they did have a little pop at him because he'd had a hair transplant. And I remember thinking at the time, it's such a difficult subject. So it was already that kind of knee-jerk, let's just have a little pop at Jimmy because he looks different, because he's got more hair. But you've been advising him, haven't you? I've
advised various different celebrities and everyday guys for a number of years. Celebrities are no different to the normal guy. Yeah, I helped Jimmy along his research process, answered a number of questions, and he was very... interested in getting informed about the whole process, and all power to him for actually, he had the last laugh because he came out first. He got the joke out there about himself, about his hair transplant before anybody else could. So it's sad that there is a stigma around hair loss and hair transplantation. It is a much easier, healthier way there's much easier ways to create a dialogue now about hair loss. People are much more open, men especially, over the last kind of 10 years. Wayne Rooney in particular broke down a lot of stigmas and opened up a lot of dialogue about getting a hair transplant, and was, in my opinion, the absolute poster boy for people talking about hair loss and hair transplants. And, a lot of people have got to be very thankful to him for pulling off the Band-Aid, saying, yes, I've had it done, I'm proud that I've had it done, and this is the situation. The people like him, the more people that talk openly about it, the better. And that's why we provide our radio show. I co-host it here in the UK to just enable people to talk, and that's important because it's healthy, especially in the current climate with mental health issues alone. Never mind the impact and the compounded impact of hair loss. Sadly, COVID has created a lot of people have got a lot of time on their hands. They're scrutinising their hair more than they would do, and it has a profound psychological effect on people. But there are options available to people, but it's very, very important they do not rush in and that they take their time to do their due diligence, because a lot of people out there will tell you what you want to hear and not what you need to hear.
Yeah. I know for me personally, this is very, very true. In my family, my aunties, my parents are from Mauritius, and my aunties have pretty much, a lot of them have lost their hair. Now, my mum hasn't, but my mum is 70 and her hair is really, really thin. And that has started happening to me over the last 10 years. And I had very long hair and I've had to have it cut really short. And so that I can't tie it up anymore because the pressure on my, from traction, from like traction alopecia. So this, honestly, you couldn't be talking to a person more interested.
For women.
Yeah, where do women go?
Yeah, women, it has and from speaking from a male perspective, and I deal with men predominantly, but for women, it's an even more severe, more devastating. Yeah, and there's an incredible kind of resource, the Women's Hair Loss Project. A lady has set up, has got a podcast and an Instagram page, the Women's Hair Loss Project. Great resource, great outlet for women to get kind of support. But for women, it is very difficult. It isn't there's a variety of different things that it could be, a certain age that ladies hit, when pregnancy hits. And like you say, longer hair creates that pull, creates that drag. Ladies have to have it short. There's a fantastic shampoo called Grow MD shampoo, which is brilliant for women to use on a daily basis to create hair, stronger hair. Because there's no medications like men can take. They can take DHT blockers. It's a little bit more black and white for men, but for women it is a little bit of an unknown because there's so many different variables. But from a psychological point of view, it is, speaking from a man who's been in this industry for 20 years dealing with hair loss, For women, it is way more devastating than it is for a man to lose their hair.
I know. I mean, I was watching the proms last night, and there was a lady from Casualty. She's a black actress, and she's got a skinhead, and she was sitting with Katie Derham, and I couldn't hear what they were saying because I was too busy looking at her head and the shape of her head and the fact that she's got a skinhead, thinking, I wonder if I could carry it off. I don't know. And that was all that was going through my head. And on a good day, I'm all right with it. But on a really bad day, it's just hideous. If you're a woman, I get with men, but women losing your hair is heartbreaking.
It's consuming. It's absolutely, and we've all got enough to deal with. And women at the home, and families and kids, and the stress that women are under, never mind having to deal with their hair and everything else that's going on in the world. I get it. I completely understand and I completely sympathise. From my point of view, for advice to women and a woman as yourself, I think keeping your hair short is the best thing you can do in the short term. Try and keep a healthy diet. It plays a huge role. Of course, there are various different factors involved that we just do not know, and it could be low iron. There could be various different things. But women that hit the menopause age, then there's issues with hair loss as well. It's an absolute roller coaster and a cocktail of variables. But for women that are having thinner hair issues, keeping their hair shorter, and the same goes for men, is certainly going to keep things healthier and stronger, and try and hit it from a very nutritional point of view and to try and keep things really healthy. It is difficult. There are I know it sounds very knee-jerk reaction, horrible to hear, but there are incredible wigs out there for women, incredible wigs. It's a drastic step. Not every woman is a wig wearer to have that freedom that you have from your own hair. And for women and their hair, it is so important to them as it is a man. It comes back down to the psychological aspects, the identity, the being a woman. The hair is so important to them, as it is a man. But it's to summarise here, there is an industry out there that will take advantage of desperate, vulnerable hair loss sufferers. So it's really important to all your listeners, and there'll be somebody who can identify with this, even to their brother, their sister, their mother, their father, that we'll be able to relay information to. And there's a huge global hair loss summit of virtual conferences coming up where doctors are getting trained, industry professionals are all coming together, and influencers to try and make the industry a better, safer place for all. Because currently, it is still, sadly, people are out there to take advantage of the vulnerable, desperate hair loss sufferers. So just be very careful.
Thank you, Spencer. We've got to leave it there, but thank you so much. You've given us loads of advice and loads of ideas. Thank you so much, Spencer. Bye.
Bye-bye.